This episode is brought to you by Leatherneck Magazine. Scuttlebutt listeners, attend! It's time for Leatherneck Magazine's annual writing contest, and we want to know what you think makes a good leader. The history of the Corps is filled with legendary examples of outstanding leaders, and today's Marines maintain that tradition of excellence. Drawing from our storied history, or from your own experience, describe the single most important thing you've learned about leading Marines, or describe an outstanding Marine Corps leader and what makes them successful. Submit your story by March 31st, and you could win up to $1,000 in prize money. Your story may also be featured in a future issue of Leatherneck. Visit www.mca-marines.org for more details or to submit your entry form. Contest is open to all authors. Good luck and Semper Fi, Mac. We would like to thank Leatherneck Magazine for sponsoring this episode. Hey, Scuttlebutt listeners, thank you again for joining us. I am Vic. I'm here with Nancy.
Hi, everyone.
And this is, we'll just call this one Amazing Conversation Take 2. We are here with Colonel Retired William Davis, who is the National Executive Director and CEO at Young Marines. Sir, thank you so much again for coming in to be with us.
Well, my apologies for breaking the system last time. Thank you for getting it all fixed so we could try again.
Yeah, well, the thing is I had to adjust the awesome meter because it was such a great conversation that the MacBook just couldn't handle it.
The awesome meter. Yeah, we were just chatting, and all of a sudden we realized, hey, it wasn't recording anymore.
Right. It was, I had to crank it up to 11, to use the Spinal Tap reference. So.
Some conversations just aren't meant to be out there in the world. That was a little conversation.
It just wasn't ready. It needs to be out there. Just wasn't. We weren't ready. The computer wasn't ready. But here we go. And then also too, for you to take a Friday and now a Monday. I know it's not easy to start the week with a podcast. So again, I truly do appreciate you coming back.
Just bookending the awesomeness.
Yeah.
Let's do this
really
thing. All right.
It really is. So, sir, let's talk a little bit about you. So you retired in 2011.
Yeah.
From the Marine Corps Reserve.
Yeah, I was
the
Assistant Chief of Staff of Facilities for the Marine Corps Reserve. During that 5-year tour, I did all of the base realignment and closure projects for the Marine Corps Reserve. Actually had more projects in the reserves than they did in the active duty, combined with all the MILCON. So over the course of 5 years, it was about 40 reserve centers, about 25% of the footprint of the Marine Corps Reserve I was personally involved with replacing, upgrading.
That's amazing. Yeah, we didn't mention this last time, but I was the INI in Jacksonville, Florida in 2011. So.
Oh, no kidding. That was right when I retired. So we did, we moved you guys from an older center to that was a brand new center.
Yeah, it was really nice.
And we also did it was a couple $1 million shoreline restoration project. A lot of people don't understand just how environmentally friendly we are.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, during my 5 years, we did millions of dollars worth of environmental projects all around the country, from remediation of old fuel sites to coastal restoration, both at your location as well as in Brooklyn, with the comm battalion up there. And
we had this thing we called the Back 40.
Yes.
And it was literally, I mean, you would imagine the sort of eco landscape of northern Florida. It was all there. Alligators, wild boar. And it was.
Well, your predecessors took me on a ride. It was a good time.
Yeah.
Well, I had to drive out and go see the work. Personal inspection.
Just take your bow out there and try to.
No, none of that stuff. No, just riding the top and try not to get swept out by a branch or something.
Yeah.
Probably plenty of snakes there too.
A fair amount.
Gosh.
Oh yeah, fair amount.
But sir, so your path to the footprint. So you, literally began your life on a Marine Corps installation.
Yeah. I was a legacy, like Animal House. They had to take me, not really. But my dad was in the Marine Corps, 59 to 80, retired first sergeant. I was born at Camp Pendleton in the, as we kidded around about, in the old hospital.
Mm-hmm.
I remember my mom, when I told her the newest hospital's right by the front gate now. And it's funny because I was talking about being born in the old hospital. You mean the one at O'Neill? No, the one before that. And it is now a matter of historical record. If you go to the hospital, you can see a picture of it. I took one, sent it to Mom, and she was like, oh, yeah, that was horrible. They had these old World War II barracks, and they had to take her from one barracks to the other because they didn't give the birthing was not done in the barracks we were in. So, gurney you from one to the other. Yeah.
Sounds like a good time.
Oh, yeah, absolutely for her. It worked out for me okay. But yeah. So 24 years myself in the Marine Corps. My dad was stationed mostly on the West Coast. Lived in Montana, California, Washington State, and Oregon. And then I joined and kind of bounced around to different places, from originally a ground supply officer, and then moved into the general logistics field, but never one two are the same.
Yeah.
That is one of the beauties of the Marine Corps that people don't understand. I remember my son when I was retiring, and he was like, "Yeah, I don't think I want to do that, Dad. I want to do the same thing 24 years." And I'm like, "Man, buddy, you weren't paying attention. I never did the same
Right.
thing. Sometimes it was 2 years. The longest was 5." And a lot of what people don't understand about the Marine Corps or the services in general, it is lifelong learning personified. I mean, when I talk to the kids in our program, I say, hey, here's the thing, it never ends, because whether you're enlisted or officer, you are going to consistently be doing education that is directly affiliated with your career path. Like mine was logistics, so advanced log officer course, joint log officer course, supply chain management at Penn State, you name it. Concurrent with that is the PME that we all do as Marines, whether it's NCO school, staff school for sergeants, our major academy, officers, command and staff. Well, AWS back in the day.
Yeah.
Now we went from amphibious to expeditionary. I dare you to tell me that. No, anyway, some people will tell you the difference. And then, then of course, command and staff, National War College, things like that. And so that education goes with you the whole way. Pick up a master's degree here, another one there, that kind of thing. But along the way, like I said, fascinating work as a logistics officer for a reserve regiment, for the Mar Forez in New Orleans, the facilities programs, as well as a couple of cool years working for Northcom, combating weapons of mass destruction. And how'd you get that job? Well, as a second lieutenant, I had a secondary MOS as an NBC defense officer.
Nice.
So that made me fully qualified to travel the world doing combating weapons of mass destruction work, the Winter Olympics in Turin, the Southeast Asian Games in Doha, things like that. But also got to do a little bit of work supporting Katrina. When it first happened, they had to quickly augment and reinforce the Joint Task Force supporting that. So a team of my guys and I went down to Atlanta and helped get everything kind of squared away, started up.
Yeah, I mean, Mar Forez was the tip of the spear for
Well, it's funny. I was supposed to go to an exercise representing Northcom at Mar Forez that weekend, the weekend of Katrina, and it was like Thursday. And I was like, "Hey, should I be flying down?" "Yeah, I don't know. I think we're probably going to cancel that." "Okay, I'll stay home." And then it's like, "Oh man." Glad I stayed home. And then 2 weeks later, I'm sitting in Atlanta helping direct forces and provide information in the current operations cell for JTF Katrina.
Yeah, Ike went through when I was on I&I, and I mean, it completely devastated Galveston. I mean, it was it was like a demilitarized zone.
That was a brutal one too. We had to do a lot of the cleanup and repair work for that as well. That footprint all around the country, I was thinking about that today. It's been 20 some years of jobs that are pretty much 24/7. When you're running facilities, it's all around the country from Hawaii all the way out to the East Coast, and you're checking weather and issues to make sure everything's operating. And then, building a school, and then when I retired in New Orleans, we built this high school, and that's 24/7 because you're worried about kids and operations. And now young Marines, spans from Japan all the way to the East Coast with activities going a lot of time on weekends and evenings. So it's just kind of that way of life. But tapping back into that, it was kind of interesting. I was in New Orleans. We were doing all the projects. We were closing the Navy base, and we were working on opening the newest Marine Corps installation down there in the West Bank, Algiers, right across from the French Quarter. And a couple of bosses of mine, General Dave Mize, that I worked for as a major, Terry Everett was my CO at the basic school, and he was the chairman of the school board that was going to create this new charter school that was all Marine Corps JROTC. And they just asked me one weekend, hey, you were sending us all these colonels' names. Yeah, we really want to see if you'd want to do it. So it was, 30 days to decide, drop paper and take this leap of faith to go build the school. And that's what I did. It sounds simple. It's more complex.
Yeah, I wanted to dive into that because, when you say build a school, is that like you, and I think last time we used this, and I'll use it again, is that like Kevin Costner and James Earl Jones standing out over an empty cornfield going, build it, they will come? Or was there already a foundation
Yeah.
laid, and you just sort of
The
jumped in.
the players weren't as good looking, but the concept was true to
Yeah.
form. It was like, hey, you know, what do you have? So I remember my wife was like, so do they have a school? No. Do they have any people? No. Do they have any money? Well, they got a little bit of seed corn money. Do they have approval? No. So what's the deal? I said, well, they want me, and then I'm going to build it. So, so luckily though, I mean,
Here's your shovel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, almost.
Toolbox.
I mean, we, my wife and I and a whole bunch of kids laid all the sod in front of the school at the end. But no, I was able to hire a fantastic principal, Dr. Cecilia Garcia. She's an awesome educator with a lot of experience, inner city schools, middle schools, high schools. And hiring her was the key to success because the two of us formed this really a very formidable team that I worked the externalities, the construction, the financing, things like that. And she made sure that I had a first-class educational institution in place. And between the two of us, you know, from 3 years from when I signed the paperwork, we were sitting in a brand new school. It took us 2 locations to get there. That was a lot of creativity and support of Marine Forces Reserve to let us use a temporary facility in their backyard. But you know, we built this first-class educational institution, and I can back it with the data because we went, you know, first year, second year I think we were B school, third year we were an A school, and pretty much an A school rated ever since. When I left, we graduated our first class of students, and just really impactful when you look at. So we had 75 kids. You know, we started with 9th grade, and then we built up each grade from there. So that first graduating class, some of those 42 of the 75 were some of my first 9 graders. I had 120 9th graders to start with. 42 of them made it through. Of the 42, I could look about half of them and exactly explain why this educational institution is the reason why they actually graduated. And for many of them, it was very successful for their families because they didn't expect it to happen. So that was really just an awesome journey. And you say, hey, would you do it again? No, man, oof. Yeah, good times.
I can only imagine.
Yeah. So it was a great journey. It was a great opportunity to impact the lives of so many kids. I was able to high five a friend of mine that I'd worked with at Mar Forez, Chris Schlafer, was retiring from Chief of Staff MARSOC, and he was looking for something new to do. And I heard rumor that he was going to do JROTC. I'm like, hey, how about you take my place and run the whole school? And you know, the board hired him on. And this was because I had a really great working relationship with the Young Marines program. My older son, Matthew, had been in Young Marines in the late 90s. And when I came back to New Orleans in 06, post-Katrina, the volunteers were still in the area. And they knew me. And I used to do speeches for them and talk to kids and everything. So there was a great opportunity in 2015. They wanted a new leader for Young Marines. And so it was a very good inflection point at the school, graduating a class, letting someone else take it next step journey. And then I was able to move up here to the DC area in summer 2015 and, you know, help impact the lives of thousands of kids around the country and help keep the adults motivated and inspired to keep those kids on track.
Awesome.
So what's more challenging, keeping the adults motivated or keeping the kids on track?
Wow. Oh, always
Hard.
hard.
Yeah.
The scuttlebutt. I almost spit out my water from the drinking
This
fountain.
is what happened. You get an actual journalist in the room.
Honestly, you know, it is the adults because, you know, we talked about this before. We talk about it a lot too. You know, our program's pretty challenging, as it should be. It's the Young Marines, you know. But, you know, we were talking about this about a month ago, and somebody made a really good point about that our program being a little different than some other programs because of what we expect. One, you don't just get to be a Young Marine. You know, write a check, buy a uniform, and show up. No. We have recruit instruction. You got to get through this 26 hours of instruction to become a Young Marine. And when you're a Young Marine, we have this expectation. We run PFTs, fitness tests. It's a variation off the presidential fitness test, the old one. So you run a PFT twice a year. You have to go to leadership schools in order to get promoted.
Do they get billets?
Yes, and we do billets. There's billets for the kids in the different units, and activities have billets for the activities that the kids fill. And so you have to do so many hours of community service to get certain promotions. And then in the background of all of this is you have to have 3 hours of drug demand reduction education training every quarter. So you pile on all these activities, you know, and we really, you know, Young Marines is for boys and girls ages 8 to high school. We teach leadership, development, citizenship through community service, a lot of that with our veterans, and this healthy drug-free lifestyle component. So these 3 components all added together. Any single component could be the basis of a youth program.
Right.
But hey, we're Marines, 150%, 200, whatever number, inflation.
Anything over 100.
Anything over 100, inflation factors, So, we demand all of this of the kids, but it takes adult volunteers to make that happen. And so that is the big challenge is, adult volunteers are fully committed, and the parents as well, to accomplish this mission. And then, of course, you have the challenges. Running a youth program in today's day and age requires a heck of a lot of accountability and oversight. And it's just, you don't just go get a bunch of kids and throw them in the back of the minivan. Hey, we're going to go to the park today. We're going to do some jumping jacks.
Yeah.
That's not how it works.
No,
So
not at all.
I want to, because I obviously want to dive into all of the nuances of what you guys are doing. But I guess before even that, so when I was coming up, living in San Clemente, being near Camp Pendleton, I always knew about devil pups, right? Like sort of the summertime thing. What is Young Marines? I'm not sure if a lot of folks are.
Let's say because that's a good point to qualify or talk about the three Marine related programs, if you would. Devil Pups is for high school kids, and it encompasses the 4 states of California, Nevada, Arizona, and New Mexico. That's where they pull from, right? And then it's one weekend or it's a 10-day session over in the summer. And it's like a one shot. And when you're done with that, they pick a couple of kids to come back in cadre the next year, and then you're done. JROTC, Marine Corps JROTC, great program. Shout out to Bob Oltman, my counterpart over there. JROTC high school program, but they will go to 8th grade. It's Title 10 U.S. Code funded from back in the 1917 NDAA, and so they teach a lot of the same things we do, and we use a lot of the same materials because land nav's land nav, you know what I mean? So there's that.
Compass points north.
There you go. Yeah. The E-tool's in the northern direction. Hold all questions till the end of the brief. So and so they do their program, and so here we are. We have elements of what you would consider traditional JRTC and then some. And because we start with 8-year-olds up through high school, that gives your challenges. Also, you're dealing with all these different stages of development with kids. What do you do to fitness for little ones? And then the older kids can do different fitness, and you're trying to encompass that all at the same time. But it's
after school.
Right. Yeah. And so our programs are predominantly after school and weekends. So we are a non-federal entity. We are a 501c3 nonprofit doing business here in the great state of Virginia, originally incorporated in DC. And so, it's evenings and weekends, but we have school-based programs. In fact, one of them recently, we have a unit in northern Louisiana that was a JROTC program from another service that they weren't meeting the required minimums. JROTC requires you to have 100 kids or more in your program because they're putting money into this.
Yeah.
Right? And they're paying for instructors and stuff. Ours is all volunteer. I got the mighty staff of 8 people and myself here in scenic Dumfries, Virginia, helps administer this program with last year of over 2,000 volunteers and over 5,000 kids.
That's incredible.
So, So we really rely on the volunteers. We were talking about the weekend. We had 4 motivated volunteers in last week helping us update some manuals because they'd all been around for a long time. And then they stayed over the weekend and had some interaction with all of us as well. But it is very much volunteer driven, and we ask a lot of our volunteers. But the psychological return on investment is as you spend time in the program and you see these kids develop, some from 8 years until 18, others for just 2 or 3 years, and you see the change in their lives. You hear it from not only them, not as much them, but a lot of times the parents will come and talk to you about it. And it's both sides. It's funny because you'll see my child was really quiet and they weren't really outgoing, and now they're more self-confident. They're willing to get up and talk to people and do things and just have a lot more sense of purpose. Or you get my child was all over the map. And, wow, you really gave them some sense of purpose and focus and direction, and they appreciate that. But that's just, and in just my, 8 years here running the show has been fascinating to watch because I interact, I see a lot of kids, as many as I can, but there's only so much time and so much money in the budget to get out and do that. But just dealing with a lot of the senior young Marines, tracking what they're up to. And yes, and a shameless plug for the Leatherneck article. Thank you, Nancy.
Love
and the
shameless
team.
plugs.
Well
Was
done.
the February article is about young Marines that chose to go into the Marine Corps. And so that segment is about 30%, roughly 30% or more of our kids will choose to go to the service. Most of them to the Marine Corps, but a bunch go Army, Navy, Air Force, a couple cats and dogs, Coast Guard, Space Force as that goes along. The other 70%, a lot of them tend to be teachers and first responders. Teachers because we expect the older kids to be instructors to the younger kids and they get the teaching bug. And then first responders because the drug demand reduction piece, we have a lot of interaction with first responders talking about the perils of drugs and how to avoid that and what they've seen on the streets and the challenges, along with the DEA. Big shout out to the
No
DEA.
kidding.
DEA, Drug Enforcement Administration, provides a lot of training materials, a lot of support to our program. Their agents go out and talk to kids about what they're seeing. And it's about building that awareness in our kids. And that's like a whole other topic for another day. But the challenges today of illegal drugs and fake pills and things like that are fully lethal. There's no second chances with some of these things.
When you just don't know what's in that
Yeah,
stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
The DEA was told us since I've been here, we went from 4 and 10 pills, 4 and 10 fake pills having a lethal dose of fentanyl up to 7 and 10.
Jeez.
And that's what you see all the time around the country. People die. They think, and they're kids, okay, they think they're getting an ADD medication or something like that. And it shouldn't be taking any of this in the first place. But then they die because of a fentanyl overdose. And this is tragic. And again, a much longer discussion. But what we do is educating our kids about that. As a youth development, that's the other challenge. In today's day and age, there's a lot of things being legalized. We don't agree, but we have to talk about youth development. Keep your body clean, keep your mind clean so you can meet your maximum development potential, and then that, and also leave as many doors open for you to use your potential to go out and do good things. And we do. I've got, young Marines, like I said, some are in the Marine Corps, which is awesome. And one of my first young Marines of the year just picked up Staff Sergeant recently.
Oh, nice.
I got another one that I just found out he was in the Marine Corps, got out of the Marine Corps. Now he's going to diplomatic security service.
That's great.
Yeah, and I just found out that last week at the Marine Corps League Convention. Another one, he will be starting Foreign Service officer this summer. He'll be reporting up here.
Department?
State Department.
Yeah, nice.
FSO. I don't know what cone yet. We'll see. And then and his wife, who's another former young Marine that we knew quite well. We're buying baby strollers and wedding shower gifts for all these kids. She's a supervisor with TSA.
They are your kids. They never
Yeah.
go-
That's your
never-
your program kids, and we all have them. So just fantastic things that all these young men and women are going off to do in society to be a productive part of society. And that's part of that's the moto fuel for those of us that work there, and it's day on, stay on because, the volunteers are working, we're helping the volunteers, evenings, weekends, all that. And for the volunteers themselves, that's the moto fuel as well. And should everyone out there feel so inspired by this Scuttlebutt topic that who would like to help volunteer with the Young Marines, please go to our website, www.youngmarines.org. And all that stuff's in there. Or you can just, contact our headquarters and we'll be happy to set you up with a local unit. Or even better, if you can find 2 other people, you can start your own unit.
Oh, wow.
You need three adults. That's all
And you don't have to be a Marine for a Marine.
No, that's always kind of funny too. There's no Marines here, but hey, if you read the books, follow the guidelines, attend the training, it's a youth program. It is always good to have a Marine there, though, because, as young Marines, it is always good to have a Marine there, and that adds that. But we have programs that are run by other people that have no Marine Corps background that run really good programs and just produce outstanding young citizens. I do have to laugh because I got a unit in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, so it's a retired Air Force vet. And she's got, I think it's a Navy executive officer and an Army training officer, and they kicked this unit off last year, and they're doing great. They're having a blast. And the Marines were like, what about us? Like, well, you guys weren't interested.
Yeah.
But now they're interested, but they're helping out. And that's cool because everyone's like, hey, they took the hit.
It's a joint program.
Yeah, it is a joint program. And that's, at the end of the day, really is about youth development. And that's something everyone can get behind. I have probably about half of our volunteers are military veterans, though. So about half of them are veterans. A lot of them are Marines, but we just have a lot of people from the different branches that are into helping the kids out. And that's not a bad thing either. if we go back to the challenges, while we're not recruiting, neither is JROTC and everything, but we are about youth development. It is young Marines. And so you get a lot of kids that are curious about service. And so what better way to learn more is from the veterans themselves, or going out and meeting veterans at the events we do. That interaction between the youth and the veterans is so educational on multiple levels. First, it's a component of living history. When we're at Pearl Harbor and we're doing a memorial service, and you have a Pearl Harbor survivor describing what it was like to be there that day, it is...
You can't replicate that.
You can't. And the kids are engaged. And when it's over, they all line up to shake that hand because they're meeting living history. But what they also find with most service members is it's about service, not just in uniform. It's about service in life. And most of these veterans continue to serve. And they see that with our volunteers. Our volunteer members that were service members are volunteering after serving. And I think the kids take away this whole concept of service, about being part of the community, about engaging, about helping other people. Also about, when we talk about helping other people, is that we're kind of all in it together.
Yeah.
When we bring these kids in from all around the country, because people, where are the young Marines at? Everywhere. From the bayou to the plains to the mountains to the city. We are 200 last year, over 210 locations around the country in 40 different states. 2 units in Japan supported by the bases out there, and the one in District of Columbia. Well, 3 now in the District of Columbia. So all these kids get together, get to meet each other. They're all wearing green. They're all doing the same thing. And they learn about each other and form all these friendships across the country. So it is very powerful on multiple levels. Obviously, I'm a little biased, but also,
a little bit, yeah.
I see it on a daily basis, and I see it over time. The impact it has for these kids and what they take away from that, and what they understand about community service, about service to your country, to your nation, to your community, to your fellow person, and take that forth into their lives. So there's all of that in a nutshell.
And it must be incredibly rewarding to see these success stories. And especially, I imagine, when you see the success stories come back, and then they are young Marines, volunteers, or mentors to
the young
Marines.
And that's nice too. About 10% of our volunteers are former young Marines. And a lot of those are the ones that went off to the service, and they want to give back, or they bring their kids into the program because they saw the difference it made in their lives. So yeah, powerful on every level. And please, anyone that's even remotely interested, give us a shout.
Yeah, we'll definitely link stuff in the show description. So people can come
absolutely.
Find you. I want to sort of lean into a little bit. Our culture now has so many things that are sort of pulling kids towards individualism, self-gratification, self-glorification. Everyone wants to be an influencer. We seem to exalt this individualism. Actually, we speak out of both sides of our mouth. We talk about these systems that bring us all together as a community, but then once you're in the system, you realize how divisive it is and how individually focused it is. And especially when we were talking about drug culture and this sort of like laissez-faire, go and stimulate your mind, man. And so for you guys to be enforcing this strict sort of no drug policy, I really want to applaud it, because one, it seems very countercultural. But at the same time,
isn't that crazy?
You think of, right? But when you think about, a human brain isn't even fully developed until you're like 25 years old.
Absolutely.
I don't know how you could have a youth program that isn't doing these things, where you're talking to DEA agents, you're talking to law enforcement about, not just like, oh, you have to do this stuff, you're going to jail. It's look at what this does to your body, and how can you have a program that is, your main focus is just creating better citizens, if you're not working on the things that are going to enable them to become these better citizens.
Man, so much there to peel apart. Anyways,
let's
start. I would start first with, the funny thing. You're right. Everyone thinks that they're going to go be a social media influencer and make millions of dollars and stuff. There's 2 pieces of that. One is, do you want to superficially impact someone's life by just throwing some stuff out on the internet and having people follow you around? Or do you want to have a lasting and meaningful impact on someone's life by being there in person, mentoring and supporting them and helping them grow? It's easy to get on the internet and say a bunch of things.
Ooh, good save. Good save.
have people like, oh, I'm going to wear this, I'm going to wear that, I'm going to do that? Or do you actually meaningfully interact human being to human being and have that happen? Human beings are social animals. COVID proved that while a lot of kids want to live on the internet and live virtually, it really doesn't work for the human being as well. And that's why we have all these challenges with social interaction coming out of COVID because of that. And that's why our program strives so hard virtually and anywhere we could face to face to continue that engagement to help those kids stay on track in life. Secondly, countercultural. It's kind of funny. We had this guy, Marvelous Mark. He's awesome. Yeah, look him up sometime. He does this whole thing about these drumming and about bands, but it was great because the message is, you got to bring a band is not an individual or a bunch of individuals operating by themselves. A band is a bunch of unique individuals who come together and produce great music, and you have to work on it. And so we had him there and we talked about that, but he said, he likes this whole thing about, rebel, how are you guys rebels? And I'm like, it's kind of funny. Call us old school. We're now the rebels because we're practicing things that are considered passe, And so that's exactly it when you talk about the drug thing. But if you look at Gen Z and stuff like that, they're looking for this whole reality. Don't try and fake me out. Anything. Authenticity. But here's the thing: all of these people pushing these things are not authentic, and they are. I mean, if you think the marijuana industry is in it for the goodness of the nation, you are wrong. No. I can't believe we're legalizing this at the same time we're trying to shut down, tobacco products, because it's not much difference as a business plan.
From the earth, man.
And it's from the earth. And that's what they tell the kids. Oh, it's all natural. Well, now the studies are, as the more of you've legalized it, more people have analyzed it, you're seeing all the negative impacts that come along with it. And so for us, it's right what you said, brain development. Marijuana in particular, when you look at the analysis, it affects the development of the brain in multiple different ways. And it's above my, I'm a science nerd at heart. My wife would have never dated me in high school because I was one of those guys. I mean, even in the end, there was a little bit of Dungeons and Dragons, okay, But
oh wow, the truth is coming out.
Oh yeah, it was rough. But anyways, I wouldn't say the Marine Corps made me cooler, but there's that. Yeah. So but when you tell the kids and you educate them, you say, listen, this is how it develops. It develops your neural pathway development, which also impacts your brainwave development in your brain. There's all these impacts that marijuana has that they're just now starting to study. The Europeans were a little ahead of this on us, and it shows the negative impacts of continued use over time will negatively impact your IQs. And there's more of this to come. But it's all those other factors with drugs, that make you just not your optimum person. And more importantly, hey, adults make adult choices, but
they're genetically engineered too, right?
Yeah.
So you're trying to get more THC.
Today's marijuana is not your
no.
Yesterday's hippies marijuana.
Yeah, so that's another one too. They don't understand the linkage between something that was 6% back in the 80s, 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. 6% marijuana is now 24, going up to 60%. There's, like I said, that's a whole other topic of discussion that you can go into, and the negative impacts it has. And the buts. No, there's no buts. It's just bad, And we're beginning to develop more understanding of how impactful it is. But back to our mission is, we try to. So we in the 2014 timeframe, one of our former folks, Joe Lusignan, was our DDR officer, and he put together this Closing the Gate on Drugs, and we focused on gateway drugs, and that's still very relevant because the studies will say if you use these, and you'll see, oh, that's a kibosh. No, the studies all say. You go look it up. It says that anyone that uses these has a higher predilection, probability of going on to use other things. And especially for youth, because if you get any kind of use and addiction or they don't call it addiction anymore, a use disorder. If you have any kind of use disorder as a younger person, it will set your brain up to have more of that as you go forward in life. And so that is why this is such a key piece of our mission is education, bringing it into everything we do. Talk about your body as a system. You want to optimize its performance, optimize your development. And then the most powerful piece of this is not only do we educate our kids, we encourage our kids to tell their friends. And that's the other thing we do. We recognize and reward them for going out in communities, setting up tables, and telling other kids, sharing the material, because that's something else you learn along the way. hey, social learning theory. Why is it that your kids will all listen to their friends, but not to you as a parent? And that's part of the deal, because the kids will still respect the older kids. You know, the freshmen still respect the seniors. The middle schoolers respect the
Right.
the high schoolers. And so that's a powerful part of the program, is not only we give them all that education, but we're like, go forth, do good things, tell your friends, pass on the word, save a life. And so that's a big part of the program as well.
What a great message.
Well, we're trying, and reasonably successful. I mean, we've won there's the DoD, Department of Defense Fulcrum Shield Award for drug demand reduction. We won it 13 times, both as a program and individual units. Last year it was Potomac River Young Marines up in Washington, D.C., and they did several community engagement events where these kids were out in their communities and they were doing projects with like posters and jackets with that drug demand reduction message, and educating their friends. Hey, stay away from this stuff. You know, not just, you know, the casual usage stuff that you see, but the fake pills and the killing and the fentanyl issues, all of those things involved. So it is a big part of the mission, again, that goes along with, and this leadership development, getting kids comfortable to speak in public is part of that development as well that we do.
I know, sir, I know that we're fighting against time and I-95 here, but I did want to ask, how, when you think about the emerging generation and this distrust of institutions, what is it how do you guys reach out to these young kids? I guess they're called alphas now, to sort of,
what's the new name?
Right.
I guess to open your doors and make them see that, like, there's more to like, we're authenticity and transparency. There's more than just the using of the word to show your sincere goal of, you know, bettering their lives.
You know, I think that comes the volunteers. You know, that's really the key to it. Again, when kids see people, and I tell the volunteer, we talk about this all the time. A volunteer's time is their most precious gift. When they get done with their job, their families, all the things they have going on, what they have left is their personal time. That's their coin of the realm. And when they choose to give that precious asset to help other kids, they see that. When a lot of them see that, they're like, wow. And that right there says this person's in it to win it, because they could do something else with their free time.
Right.
They didn't have to be hassled with getting up early on a Saturday to get a bunch of kids to go to drill or go do some event, or do a school for a week where you're getting like 6 hours of sleep because you're making sure all these kids are on track. So the kids see that. I think the other thing too is, it goes back to, we talk, human nature is what it is. We have all these generations, all these differences, but at the end of the day, you know, personal development, self-satisfaction, the Maslow, whatever thing you want frame of reference, you know, working your way up the hierarchy, that happens. And it's as simple as, you know, I saw a lot of schools would do this whole, we're going to talk about self-esteem. You know, we're going to get 90 minutes of self-esteem every week. Yeah, okay. How about we actually teach the kids how to read and write and develop self-confidence through personal activity? It builds self-esteem. And that also—
What a concept.
Yeah, that also works in our program. When you see our goal every day, any event, a child should leave there having done something they weren't sure they could do that morning, no matter how simple it is. And I'll do the whole drill thing, because we were joking around this before. You know, hey, Marine Corps, hoorah, we drill. I'm not the big guy on drill. Hey, I do it because we're Marines, but it was not like the thing I liked. Right. You talk to the kids, you know, what do you guys like? PT and drill, sir. I'm like, wow, really? Okay.
I wouldn't have guessed.
Sure. I would not have guessed it either. But the vast majority, PT and drill, sir. And I'm like,
like, is ask a corporal.
Is that what you want me to hear? But they like, seriously. But part of the thing about drill is so simple. You get and it really is. You get a bunch of kids together, and you put them all in that little line, and there's a kid going left, right, you know, and the other kids going, you know, marching along left, right. And you grab little Johnny, little Susie, and say, okay, it's your turn. And you pop that out in front, and now the other 6 kids, and they're going left, right, and they look over and they realize, one, they're out. We stealthily got them in front of people speaking. 2, they're talking about something, people are following them. And they're like, wow, I can do this. And
that's powerful.
Yeah, whether it's simple as that, or, you know, we go to an obstacle course and a kid has to climb over a couple logs that they've never done before. speaking in front of other groups, the challenges by earning the different ribbons we have, color guards, going that talk about put the fear into some little youngster is, put that American flag in their hands and tell them don't mess this up, but we're going to teach you and you're going to go do it. They are so motivated when they have those opportunities to do those things. It's powerful and it builds that self-confidence, and that's what they need. They're looking for purpose. They're looking for a tribe. That Sebastian Young is right on target. Everyone tribal thing. They're all, no matter what they say. Oh, I'm the tribe of some social media, and I won't use a name because I get in trouble. But we're looking to follow this tribe or that tribe or whatever. Well, here's this tribe you can hang out with, and this is our positive message to help you be successful in life. And that's a big thing out of the program. So generationally, it doesn't matter. It is basic, fundamental human.
Awesome.
Well, it's a great program, and we know we're up against
And there's a great article written about it.
Leatherneck, check the February issue out, and we'll give you all the information in the show notes. But before we close, because we know you've got somewhere else to be, we want to ask you our favorite closing question. Yeah. What was your best day in the Marine Corps?
I'm so glad you asked me. Hey, to the audience, they actually let you know this in advance, so it isn't like stump the chump.
Sure.
But what I would say though is because it made me think, because commissioning was awesome, retirement was awesome, but I had to think back. I said probably going, coming, doing things with the Marine Corps, helping other people throughout my career was good. But I would probably say the best day was my promotion to lieutenant colonel. And the reason why, it was right here at the Marsh Center here at Quantico. But what it really came down to, my dad was in the Marine Corps, like I said. He retired from the Marine Corps. We had already moved to Washington State, my whole family. My dad's retirement, I think, was just kind of him and a couple people, and they retired. Well, he's first sergeant. There probably was a formation. Come on now. Yeah. Gunny would say, first sergeant, there's going to be a formation for your retirement, sir. I don't care what you want. Okay. But he never had that in front of his family. My dad left home at 17 years old and only came back a few times back here when he was in the Marine Corps. Don't think it ever happened. I was commissioned, and my folks had never been around for any of my promotions either. So Lieutenant Colonel, I got promoted, and a big shout out to General Panaro. Major General Panaro was my boss at the time. And when he found out my dad was a Vietnam vet, and General Panaro it's really big for him, he asked me a lot of questions. So I was like, okay. So the whole family's there. My dad's brothers and sisters were there. My wife, her sister, the boys, our kids, everyone was kind of there for this promotion ceremony. And General Panaro first up started, he goes, I do want to do something first. I want to recognize First Sergeant William H. Davis, Marine Corps retired. And he talked about my dad, Vietnam service, talked about my mom and what she went through as a spouse during the days, when we didn't have phone calls and internet and all that stuff. Yeah. And so in a little bit, and he called my dad up, gave him a coin, and my dad kind of got the retirement in front of his family that he never had. And then after that, I got the promotion in front of everybody that up till that point I hadn't had either. So that was just a special day that recognized, my dad, my mom, my family, and big thanks to General Panaro. And luckily I got to thank him again a few years ago about doing that. But that was probably the best day in the Marine Corps, because it was about family, and it was about having them all together to celebrate and also recognize my dad for everything he'd done. Hoorah.
What a great story.
That's a good one. That is a good one. Well, I can't think of a better way to close.
Yeah, hope you'll come back and talk to us again.
Other than www.youngmarines.org if you want to help out or start a unit.
Great plug. You'll come back and talk to us again sometime?
Absolutely. Awesome. Hey, I'm full of all kinds of stories that we could come up with. We can do a whole session on whatever you, well, not whatever you want, but yeah.
We'll come up with some stuff.
Yeah, we'll figure something out. Yeah.
Do some brainstorming.
Put some ideas in a hat and pull them out. Well, sir, thank you so much for taking another hour out of your day to be with us. No. Really appreciate it. But we were lucky enough to be able to see you twice. So
yeah.
Well, it's our gain. And really do appreciate any chance that we can talk about the program and talk about our nation's youth. Because so much of what you see in the news is bad. And every statistic is bad. Right. Well, guess what? There's a few of us that, like you said, we're the counterculture. We're fighting against that. And we're going to try and keep a bunch of kids on the right track in life for them, for their families, for our country.
Yeah.
Hoorah.
Hoorah.
I love it.
All right, sir. Thank you.
Thanks.
This episode is brought to you by the Marine Corps Association and Modern Day Marine. Exciting news, Scuttlebutt fans. Modern Day Marine, co-hosted by the Marine Corps Association and the Marine Corps League, is set to take place at the Walter E. Washington Convention Center from April 30th to May 2nd. Dive into the latest innovations, hear from senior leaders across the Department of Defense, and connect with fellow Marines and defense industry partners. Registration is now open. Visit MarineMilitaryExpos.com for more details. That's MarineMilitaryExpos.com. Don't miss this opportunity to engage in the emerging Marine Corps advancements. We would like to thank the Marine Corps Association and Modern Day Marine for sponsoring this episode. Scuttlebutt is a production of the Marine Corps Association. You have heard the voices or contributions from Major Vic Rubel, USMC retired, Nancy Litchman and or William Truding, and Col William Davis, USMC retired. Ty Frazier is the editor, sound engineer, and technical producer. The Marine Corps Association is not an agency of the U.S. government. The opinions expressed in this episode are the personal views of the participants and do not reflect the official position of the United States Marine Corps, the Department of Defense, or the Marine Corps Association.